I had heard about this movie, It Doesn't Get Any Better Than This, a few weeks ago. It premiered at some film festivals a couple of years ago, but it was now being shown in theaters only. According to the filmmakers Nick and Rachel, it will never be distributed in physical format. It will never be on streaming. So your only chance to watch it is to go to the theater to see it. I was lucky enough to see this movie at my local Alamo Draft House. There was this personalized introduction by the director Nick. Much like what you're seeing now, there was just a tape recorder on screen with subtitles of what he was saying. He thanked us all for being there. He drove the point home that this was a very personal film to them, and they were excited to share it with us. And he even invited us to do a seance with them. So the whole audience did this breathing exercise. Now, call all of this clever marketing, a gimmick perhaps, but it did make for a very interesting theater watch. He asked us to contemplate our lives and all the paths we took in life to end up in this theater at this moment, surrounded by these people watching this movie. It was kind of a trippy little experience before the movie started. And then the movie started. Usually when I do a non-spoiler review, I just kind of talk about my general thoughts on the movie, but given that this is a special circumstance, seeing as how most people watching this may never even be able to see this movie, I'm going to kind of go through the movie top to bottom, but try not to give anything away. I just want to give you a sense of what this movie is about. There's a lot of mystique around it, but I won't spoil the ending, so don't worry. It Doesn't Get Any Better Than This, directed by Nick Toti, T-O-T-I, and his wife Rachel Kempf. They both star in the movie. They shot several small films together, many of which you see in this movie. So when the movie starts, it's presented as a real thing. Like, there's a voiceover by the director Nick, kind of giving you their backstory as a couple and as filmmakers. He tells us about Rachel's gay best friend Christian, who is kind of the only other actor in the movie, or real actor. Rachel and Christian, they do seances together. Like at one point they contacted a ghost and kind of got hooked on the process of it and exploring the supernatural. So Nick sort of wants to like make a documentary about them in a way, but they also get this idea to buy an abandoned duplex so they can shoot their own horror movie, do whatever they want with it. They buy this duplex in a rundown part of town in the middle of nowhere, and this is a great setting for a found footage movie. Growing up in rural South where you had to get creative to entertain yourself, me and my friends have definitely explored abandoned houses, and you find all sorts of weird shit in there, and like we would take baseball bats and just beat holes in the sheetrock. I don't know, we were bored. This setting feels very familiar to me. And I don't know if they dressed the house this way or if this is mostly how they found it, but it feels like a very lived-in home. Well, also lots of like crackheads using it as like a flop house or whatever you want to call it. Flop house? Crack house? I don't know. There's a lot of pentagrams written on the wall, not in like a very scary kind of way, just like edgy teenager kind of way, like pentagrams with a shitty Sharpie. So while they're exploring their new duplex that they plan to shoot all this footage in, there's already people gathering outside. Not that many. There's like one guy in the front yard. They'll go over to the kitchen or something, and there might be somebody across the street just staring at the home. So up to this point, not a whole lot's happened. They bought the duplex. They plan to shoot a horror movie. And then it cuts to Act 2. Yes, there are acts to this movie. There are 3 plus an epilogue. Act 2 was called Scary New Year. I forgot what Act 1 was called because I wasn't taking notes at that point, but around this time I busted out the notebook and decided to jot down some notes as I was watching this. So in Act 2, Rachel and Christian, they want to do a seance in the attic. So up in the attic, there's really not a whole lot there. It's mostly just insulation, but there is this one area where a board has been laid down and there's like this shrine or something. It's just a candle that's obviously been burned for many hours, days perhaps, just on this one bench. So they want to do the seance in the attic because it obviously has this creep factor with this altar, with this candle. So they begin the seance and they're filming this, and they're just sitting across from each other. And this is one of several times the movie does this where it lingers on a shot for a long time. Like this seance, it's just Christian, Rachel sitting there with the candle in between them. It sits there for, I would say, literally at least 4 minutes, just them sitting there. And it lingered so long that even in the theater, you could just kind of feel people like getting uncomfortable, like, what's gonna happen? Is anything gonna happen? Did the film get stuck? But eventually the candle blows out and there is this ungodly loud noise. It sounds like Satan screaming into a very loud microphone with like this feedback noise with all this mechanical noise. It's like earth-shattering loud. In the theater, I was like, Jesus, turn this off, please. So obviously they're freaked out. They go down from the attic into the living room, and there is this painting on the wall that has magically appeared out of nowhere. More people are standing outside. Act 3, the Hellmouth. I guess that's the name of the painting. So now there's even more people outside, like 15, 20 people just hanging out on the front lawn. They're like, what the fuck's going on? They decide to buy security cameras to put them up all over the house. And by this point, Christian, Rachel's friend, is gone. He's freaked out. He's cut off all contact with Rachel and Nick. Rachel goes up to the people outside like, what are you doing here? Can we help you? What are you looking at? Meanwhile, Nick finds Polaroids of him and Rachel's house, like just the front of their house, as well as a Polaroid of Christian's house. So she calls Christian like, hey, found this weird Polaroid of your house. And he's like, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with this. He's totally freaked out. So by this point, Rachel and Nick are fed up with the people outside, and they decide, hey, we noticed that these people are leaving between 2 and 4 a.m. every morning. Let's follow one of them home and stand outside their house. So they walk after this one girl that was standing in front of their home. And this chase sequence goes on, again, another scene where it goes on for a very long time. The girl is sort of like, why are you following me? And they just keep following her and asking, why were you in front of our house? And then it immediately cuts to Nick vomiting in the toilet. Again, uncomfortably long, just spewing in the toilet. And he's saying like I'm sick from the adrenaline from chasing this girl, and I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I have to keep making this movie, and this is the best thing I've ever made. I don't know what the point of this scene is, but if you're squeamish to vomit like I was like, dude, let's wrap this up. So we cut back to even more people on the lawn. There's like 20 to 30, the most there's ever been. And they finally decide to call the cops. First time they've done that, the cops show up. They're like, hey, put the camera down, don't film me. At one point, the cop runs inside the house. Nick chases after him with his camera, but he loses the cop. He's kind of like vanished. Nick is exploring the house, running around, trying to find his wife, Rachel. She's nowhere to be found. He goes down in the basement. It's kind of Blair Witchy in a way. I was expecting him to yell, "Josh, where are you?" And that's not like the only what I thought was a nod to Blair Witch, but it was effective. I was like, "Ooh, what the fuck's going on?" He runs out to the front yard. Everybody's gone. Cop cars, everyone that was in front of the house, completely gone. And that was a cool moment. I was like, "Oh, this is kind of creepy." And then we get to the epilogue, the seance tapes. And now we are back in reality mode. We have the voiceover by Nick that we heard in the beginning. He's saying that Rachel is still missing. It's been 6 months. The police think that this whole thing was just a big hoax. Nobody's helping him find Rachel. He can't get in contact with Christian. And then we cut to Nick in front of the home. Some time has passed. He's painted over the duplex. He's fixed it up, removed all the junk, painted the walls, and he's saying that he wants to have it ready for whenever Rachel returns home. And being that this is the 6-month anniversary, he decides to paint over the Hellmouth painting that's on the wall that appeared during the seance. But after he does that, the house is full of junk again. Like, it looks exactly the way it was. Going around the house, going like, what's going on? And he finds a picture of his wife, a missing poster, along with a cassette tape, or a tape. And he puts in the tape, and that is where I'm going to stop my review. I'm not going to tell you what's on the tape. Unless you truly want to know, then reach out to me on Instagram or comment below. But I do suggest try to watch this movie if you can. That's the end of the movie. Now, I'll start with the pros of the movie. So at no point during this movie did I have any idea of what was going to happen. I was kind of in this constant state of confusion, like, where's this going? It sort of reminded me a little bit of Skinamarink. Now, it's not nearly as slow as that, like not even close. But in the sense that this does have an experimental, winging it kind of vibe. Like, I believe there was no script to this. They were just sort of making it up as they went. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes that kind of hinders the movie a little bit. I do have to give it credit for being very unique and obviously presenting a unique theater experience. Nothing will ever come close to seeing the Blair Witch Project in theaters when I was 11 years old. I don't think you can replicate that feeling, but there are shades of that in this movie. So that's a definite plus, because that's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I found it to be very inspiring. I mean, they shot this on a $5,000 budget. It's pretty cool to see that you can take such a small budget and create something that has this buzz around it. I respect them if they were truly going to just keep this theater release only. I kind of want to be like, guys, just sell the movie, put it on Shudder or something. Like, take that money and roll it over into your next project. But, you know, you gotta let art be art. Do whatever you want with it. I respect you if you just want to keep it theater only. Whether this is some sort of marketing ploy to garner more attention, it's obviously working. So I definitely look forward to whatever Nick and Rachel are going to do next. I mean, this isn't a perfect movie by any means, but it was unique as hell, and I applaud anything different that comes out whenever filmmakers try new stuff. Now, on to some of the cons of the movie. So I feel like this movie could have been way scarier, but some of Nick and Rachel's reactions to what is going on, their demeanor, it doesn't line up with what's happening. For example, as soon as these people start showing up to their house, even at the very beginning, they sort of just think it's funny. Even when there's 15, 20 people outside their house, they're just like, what? This is crazy. And it's like, you don't find this weird? I feel like they could have played up the scary situations in this movie. Even when they were doing the seance, they're like kind of giggling and stuff, like, oh my god, this is crazy. Another thing about this movie, I don't know if it was the volume of the theater I watched it in, but there are some extremely loud moments in this movie, to the point where it's like kind of shrill to watch this movie. It's like, ugh. It'll just be like a loud bang in the house or something, where it just kind of like makes your ears bleed for a second, or that ungodly loud noise that you hear 2 times in the movie. I mean, it's definitely effective to like shock the audience, but it kind of makes this a hard watch at times. So other than that, I mean, this movie was pretty solid for an extremely low budget found footage movie. I will certainly never forget this experience, that is for sure. And to Nick and Rachel, if you're watching this, congrats on the success of the movie. I don't know what you consider success, if you just want people to talk about this, or I don't know, maybe you want this to eventually go to streaming once word of mouth gets large enough, or people start to demand this be shown in their theaters. Yeah, I definitely look forward to what Nick and Rachel do next. It doesn't get any better than this. It's an experience. So if you get a chance to watch this in theaters, I highly recommend doing so. But yeah, if you are still watching, thank you so much for tuning in. I truly appreciate it. If you could do me a favor and like the video, comment down below, let me know if you've seen the movie. Do you want to see it? What do you think of the marketing? Do you think this is genius or hacky? Or a little bit of both, or neither? Alright, that's going to do it for now, but thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you next time.